Now guys, you might have noticed that it is absolutely frigid in here. That's because today in the Forge, we are paying tribute to some cold weather warriors who've been fighting the ice for centuries. This is a competition we are calling Arctic Forge. In this first round of competition, we're gonna ask you to recreate a blade that has been used by Alaskan natives for centuries. Now that blade is the Ulu. When you're building your Ulus, I want you to meet these parameters. You need to have a crescent-shaped cutting edge that measures between 7 and 8 inches. And you also must have a fully enclosed full tang handle. Now you guys are probably thinking, what am I gonna make my Ulu out of? Well, that answer lies at your workstations. On top of your tables, you have a tarp. Go ahead and remove that for me. What you guys have there is a great piece of high carbon steel in the form of a ball bearing. But unfortunately, it's frozen in a block of ice. But we've got a solution for you. Next to that block of ice, there is a cylinder of mild steel. We want you guys to take that mild steel, make a tool, and break the ball bearing free. Good luck. Your time starts now. Ice cold, boys.
I got my mild steel in the forge. I decided to make a little hammer out of it. Simple as that.
Basically, just make a mace. Make a short mace. Leave one end of it fat, draw a little handle onto it, whackety, whackety, whackety.
It's a little hammer.
Easy, psycho.
There you go.
Good
There we
Lord.
go.
Once I see that ball slides around, I grab it and I run back to the forge.
My plan with the mild steel is to forge out a pick. I just need it to be long enough to hold on to and to have a sharp point so I can really attack that ice.
Andrew went straight for Big Blue. That's a smart move.
I get the ball bearing out. It's really cold. I'm a little worried about that, but I don't have time to let it warm up or anything. I just have to get it into the forge.
Taking that ball of steel and just throwing it into the forge is probably not the best idea.
What could happen?
I could shock it, fracture it, to the point where you can't even fix it.
My plan is to make a small hammer out of the mild steel and go right at it. I broke out my ball bearing relatively fast. I'm feeling really good right now.
I'm looking at my steel. I'm getting the basic shape I need. Now I just got to figure out how am I going to attack getting a hole in this thing for a hand to sit comfortably in. I decide I'm going to have to cut it on the angle grinder.
I'd still prefer to use the hot wrench and just blow the hole out.
Seems like it'd be the fastest.
I've been wasting so much time just trying to get this hole out. I know the time's counting down. I've been trying to avoid cutting through the bridge of this handle, but it comes to the point where I need to cut through this handle. It will completely just ruin the integrity of the blade, in my opinion. I finally get the piece I need off.
Finally.
Devin's back in the welder. He's putting that chunk of handle material that he cut off. He's welding that back on now.
The one thing about putting holes into this piece is that it's got to have enough space from the knuckles. Not tiny, a lot of space.
It looks good to me.
I noticed that my handle tang got too thin for what I wanted, but I don't have time to fix that right now.
If you notice, he's got a lot of blade and a long, spindly little handle. Now that's gonna roll in your hand if he doesn't build that up with a lot of handle material.
I'm feeling my blade and I notice right where the handle connects to the blade that there is some sharp corners, and you don't want sharp corners because that could cause a stress fracture. So I gotta fill it with some weld.
That's definitely a smart move.
I'm really liking the overall shape of this blade, and now it's time to move on to punching the hole through it for the user's hand.
Looking at Andrew's blade, I think his shape is really nice. It's just very tall.
And having that hole being that size, you go and hit something, it can flop one way or the other depending on hand of construction and really mess your hand up.
The problem with having corners the way I cut them is that when you quench the blade, those are stress risers, and it could create a crack that just completely ruins the edge. I make the decision to go ahead and weld up the corners because I know that if the blade cracks, welding that will just not work at all.
All right, guys, we're coming down to the wire. You have 30 minutes left on the clock. Devin's actually turned out all right.
Yeah?
As I'm getting ready to quench, I want to make sure I'm only focusing on the edge that gets hot and not the rest of the material. If any of the rest of the material gets hot, I don't know what way it can warp, and I am not prepared for that or have the time to fix that. I need this thing to go perfect.
And only quenching the edge. Smart move.
Nice. Good for him.
Smart.
Lord behold, no warps, straight as an arrow. Now I just need to make sure this sits comfortably and looks better than it does right now.
I'm getting ready to quench, and I realize that I really have forged the blade pretty thin, and that could create warping.
Andrew's in the quench.
After the quench, I clamp the thing into the vise. When you do that, it helps to straighten everything out. If I pull it out of the vise, the blade is straight. I'm pretty happy about how that came out.
Edge quench.
My blade is straight and it's hard. And now I'm off to the grinder. I need to clean up my blade. I look down. There's a crack. No, 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 no. Ooh. I don't have time to fix this in the forge. So I run over to the welder and I put a bead of weld along the crack.
You know, it really makes you wonder how the ball bearing steel encased in ice and then thrown into fire has affected that steel. You gave them time to start to crack the ice open, but nobody had the patience to warm it up.
3, 2, 1. Gentlemen, turn off your machines. Put down your tools. This round is over.
All right, gentlemen, it's time for the strength test. And to keep with our Arctic theme, we're going with the moose antler punch and chop. Remember, this is not about what your ulu does to the antler, but what that antler can do to your ulu. Clay, you're up first. You ready?
I guess so.
Well, I'm going to do it anyway.
Dave's punched me before. It's not that bad.
Holy bleep.
I take it back.
All right, Clay, let's talk about your ulu. Now, right off, it's got a good cutting edge, and it didn't lose any of that edge, so that's good. As far as the handle goes, it's a rough construction. Without a glove on, this is really not a comfortable handle. There are, parts that are kind of sticking up, but didn't hurt my hand, stayed where I wanted it to be, so good job.
Thank you.
All right, Andrew, you're up. Are you ready?
Knock it out.
So, Andrew, there's some obvious issues with this. When you were drilling to mount the handle, there was some overworking and not good thermocycling going on to reduce that grain structure and give it the strength that it needs. Once I hit just face on, it just cut loose.
You good?
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, that is an absolutely tough break. Unfortunately, you had a catastrophic failure in your blade, which means we cannot test your ulu further. Clay, congratulations. That means you're moving forward into round 3's competition. Devin, not quite out of the woods yet. You got to make it through a solid punch. You ready?
Yeah, let's get weird.
All right, let's do it. Dave,
Get weird.
careful what you ask for.
So, Devin, your design is pretty much spot on for an ulu. As far as holding up in this test, you really didn't take in any damage at all. I feel like I could work with this either skinning or chopping, and the blade held up beautifully. Nicely done.
Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, you guys all did a great job, but Andrew, unfortunately, we can't continue testing, and your time here in the forge has ended, man. I'm gonna have to ask you to please step out.
Let the young dogs play. It wasn't a big shock for me when the blade failed. There were a lot of things wrong with that blade, and it would have taken a miracle for me to be able to get through to the finale. My wife's been bugging me to make her an ulu, so when I get home, one of the first things that I'll do is make a decent ulu that'll be useful in the kitchen. And it's not gonna be used to punch antlers or do crazy stuff like that.